If you struggle with shyness or social anxiety, check out our free No BS training course with actual useful advice you can do from home. None of that just get out there nonsense. The link is in the description below. For now, let's get to today's question.
Eva personally felt what it's like to feel painfully awkward around someone you're attracted to. Or to be unsure of what to say when you meet someone you don't know well. Or to spend years repeatedly hearing people tell you, "Why are you so quiet?" Personally, shyness ruined most of my 20s, but the man who really turned my life around was Sean. How to Overcome Shyness, the ultimate 3-step guide, Moldita. Because of this, I only focus on shyness advice that works. I know it works because Eva tested it on myself and my clients in the real world. That's why you'll never hear me repeat the usual self-help crappy advice that doesn't help you. And now even recognized experts have praised my work helping people overcome shyness. For example, here's part of a note that Drive. Aziz Ghazipora, licensed clinical psychologist and founder of the Center for Social Confidence, sent me. In fact, I tried to make myself invisible, never raising my hand in class, talking quietly, keeping to myself during lunch, not doing much outside the house, not making friends, and so on. Sometimes I feel like I wasted those years in elementary and high school. Sure, I got good grades, but I missed out on making lifelong friends and creating fun memories with them. I had carried my old self with me to the new city. My old insecurities and fears came rushing back as soon as I moved into my room. I was living in a big house with 8 roommates and, guess what? Whenever I had to eat, I tried to make sure no one was in the kitchen. I tiptoed around so people wouldn't hear me going to my room. On the weekends, I shut myself in my room and prayed nobody would decide to invite friends over. I was no longer the quiet guy who never talked. Instead of sitting alone wondering why people didn't invite me to do things, I actually had a close group of friends and a social life. Best of all, I even figured out how to get a girlfriend. Something I thought would never happen! 3. Shyness versus introversion. Which one do you have? It's perfectly okay to be an introvert. I personally love to read, draw and relax alone. There's absolutely nothing wrong with that. However, shyness is not the same thing as introversion. It's actually closer to fear than anything else. 8. How to always know what to say next. Video. This super simple conversation technique will allow you to never run out of things to say. Sounds like a big promise? I know, but watch the video and you'll see what I mean. The way you overcome shyness is to become so wrapped up in something that you forget to be afraid. Before proceeding, it's important to point out that shyness is not the same as being introverted. Introverts actually feel energized spending time alone doing their own thing. They aren't afraid of social situations, but rather simply prefer to be by themselves. Social situations drain them emotionally, while solitary activities energize and spark their creativity. Referenced from Lonely to Social Life in 27 Days. We all have goals and objectives that we would like to attain. It's unfortunate for shy individuals that the vast majority of these objectives require the help of other people. This means that to bring their goals to fruition they must venture out into the world and make social connections. And if they are unable to do this, then they will end up living a life full of regrets and unfulfilled promises. Your very first step is to identify what it is you would like to achieve. Your desired objectives should initially be very simple and straightforward. For instance, you might set a goal to ask a stranger a question. After this initial encounter, you could set another goal to have a 2-minute conversation with a stranger. Then from there you would set additional goals that will help you make even more progress. Ask yourself, it doesn't matter what your objective is, as long as you are clear about it and it helps you become more confident in social situations. Your end goal, of course, might be to connect and network with hundreds of people at a networking event sometime in the future. However, you will certainly need to build momentum progressively over time before this event, or otherwise you might end up being struck with fear and anxiety on the day. It's now time to take the answers you explored within the previous step and begin challenging your assumptions. We are of course assuming that the way you're thinking and feeling about this particular social situation isn't practical or helpful, and as such there must be a better way to think and feel about these potential scenarios. Explore these possibilities by asking yourself, it's very possible that you are simply not seeing things clearly. You might in fact be viewing the situation in a very unrealistic and unhelpful way. There could potentially be things that you're overlooking, and this is causing you to feel uncertain, fearful and anxious. the more helpful perspectives you gather about this social situation through your own explorations and by asking other people, the less of a hold your limiting beliefs and unhelpful thinking habits will have over your decisions and actions. However, even if after all this you are still feeling somewhat hesitant and reluctant, then ask yourself, normally the worst that could happen isn't as bad as you make it out to be. In fact, the worst-case scenario will rarely occur, and if it does, then at least you will be prepared for when it arrives. This alone can help you gain the necessary confidence you need to take a small step forward towards beating your feelings of shyness. Even if you took the time to thoroughly prepare for this social situation, it would still be reasonable to expect that you will feel a little anxious and that unexpected challenges might arise. This is okay. It's okay to feel anxious. Anxiety will help you raise your levels of alertness. In fact, everything you do for the first time, or even things that you haven't done for a long time, are often riddled with anxiety and a little tension. These emotional experiences will eventually pass. However, it will take some time and you will need to gain some experience. The more experience you gain, the greater confidence you will muster moving forward. As mentioned earlier, unexpected things will happen. People will not always be responsive to your questions. Some people might in fact be in a rush and don't want to strike up conversations with random strangers. Other people might be having a very bad day and as a result they might be rude or ignore you altogether. Don't take this as a personal attack. These people are not out to get you. They are simply having a bad day, and being rude and sometimes hurtful is a helpful way to release some tension. Just ignore these people. Walk away and find someone else you can talk to. This is what I have taught and trained my students to do every single day, or rather, this is the assignment I give them for the week. Every day, they are asked to meet anyone they see and ask them 3 questions, any one in any 3 questions. So for example, let's assume one of my students met a person standing near the road, walking in the opposite direction to them or simply waiting for a cab. They have to ask that stranger any 3 questions, and then I make them do this 5 times a day. At first many feel awkward. Later on, they start with the basic questions like, excuse me, what is the time, or where is this location or that location, and finally, how do I get there? And once they get used to this pattern, I ask them to practice giving compliments, asking for bigger favors like asking for their smartphone to make a call or asking for money. And finally, the highest and most difficult test, I ask them to take the person on a date or get their phone number within the first meeting. The reason I make them do this is not only for them to overcome their inhibitions, but also to learn the power of asking and overcoming rejections. So you want a simple daily challenge to overcome shyness. Do this every single day, 5 times a day. And I can assure you, you will be incredible within a year. Loy Makito. I don't know your level of shyness, since not everyone is exactly the same. So we'll try to make it as general as possible, and give this advice with a strong level of shyness in mind. Say hello to people you come across. Just say hi and smile. That's it. No need to engage in conversation. Start getting a little more social with people you already know. Exposure is the one and only way to getting used to social interactions. There's no other way. So best to start with people you're familiar with. When you're with people you know, try to participate a bit more. If you're used to spending a whole evening without uttering a single word, set a goal of speaking aloud at least once. The next time, twice, etc. For some people it might seem a bit ridiculous, but if you're super shy this might already be difficult. Once you're past the step of being comfortable with people you know, seek interactions with people you don't know in neutral situations. By this I mean in parties, other people's house. Get there with at least 2 people you know, so take little risk of finding yourself alone. Always be incremental in your exposure. At first, try to interact with new people along with someone you know. In everyday life, when you search for your way, ask people in the street for directions instead of looking at your phone's maps. Or you can ask for the time, or anything. Make stuff up, just as an excuse to go up to people and have a quick, short, nice interaction. From there, if you start getting used to it, try to have longer interactions. The key is, don't try to rush. Just like with suntan, if you're pale white, going under the sun at 2 p.m. for hours will only get you burned badly. Start bit by bit, little by little, with a lot of help, your friends, and from there slowly increase exposure. David Riesman wrote The Lonely Crowd in 1950, and there is an important insight he provides that can help a person with shyness. He said that people are either other-directed, focused on reactions of others, Or inner directed, where the person is focused on their own inner reality. An inner directed person has a strong center of gravity, and their feeling of self-esteem is self-generated, not dependent on the approval of others. One of the keys to overcoming shyness is to be inner directed, to find that inner voice that is the real you. When you get in touch with that inner voice, it will be the source of your own feeling of self-worth. Then you won't always worry or be concerned with what others are thinking of you. When you are in a crowd, you won't be scared about what impression you are making on others, because your opinion of yourself will be coming from your own fountain of well-being, your own opinion of yourself. So the first step is, find your inner voice, nurture it, become familiar with it, become friends with it, converse with it. That voice is ultimately where your feeling of self-worth should spring from, not the opinion of others. Once you accomplish this, this will go a long way to overcoming shyness, which stems from over-concern with what others are thinking about you. Is it shyness or lack of motivation to deal with certain people? I'm rarely shy, but I'm distant around people who play games and create drama with it without knowing me. If you take my name out of your mouth, spread rumors or try to seek my attention, I will never be normal with you. And if you use that as a base for friendship, it goes without saying that that's a weak foundation for a friendship and it'll fail, because I don't want it to last. So first determine the issue. If you're normal around a lot of people and quiet around some, then there are reasons for that. You probably don't click or you don't trust them. Trust your gut. Those are not your people. Normal shyness goes away with time. I know a lot of people who were shy as teenagers and grew up to be confident. But being talkative doesn't mean you're confident. I know plenty of talkative people. I'm talkative myself. But it has nothing to do with confidence. There are people with low self-esteem who are social or very talkative. I find it ignorant how people think being social has anything to do with your self-esteem. Attention-seeking behavior is a sign of low self-esteem. For instance,